Hello everybody, welcome back. It's Chef Andrew and I'm very excited to walk you through Christmas Prep Day 6. We are almost to the day. Now, today is the day where you totally set yourself up to make tomorrow so easy. We do things ahead of time which are not going to compromise any of the flavors, textures, or the quality of the dishes that we're making. Some of these things take a while to make it right, like the brining of the turkey, for example, has to be done overnight. There's no two ways about it. Now, if you want to make it a 2-day process, you could do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, we want to try to consolidate our time spent on this as much as possible. So here's our menu that we already established, right? We've already shopped for everything. I just wanted to show you one more time what we're doing. So we have our rib roast turkey. We're doing a mushroom gravy, our sourdough and roasted butternut dressing. That's going to be delicious. Our mashed sweet potatoes with butter and pecans, Brussels sprouts as a side, cranberry orange sauce as a side, and then our one dessert is going to be our sweet potato bundt cake. Now, since we did all of that work ahead of time, here's where I hope it's all going to make sense to you on how this is going to come together. So today, again, we're setting ourselves up for success for tomorrow so that we're not having to make everything tomorrow at the last minute, having to fight for oven space and probably fight other people for oven space. There's no need for all that. So we're going to do strategically things ahead of time, which again is going to make tomorrow so easy. So this is our prep day. Right now we're talking about our prep list and how to set all this up. So I'm just going to go through item by item and tell you that on this prep day with our menu, this is what we're going to get done. Starting with dessert. I always like to take dessert first and just knock it out because they hold really well for a day or two. So nothing's going to be compromised. There's none of the texture is going to be compromised by making it one day ahead of time, especially since we're just going to wrap it in plastic and leave it on the counter overnight. So make this entire recipe. Bake the cake in the bundt pan. You're going to cool the cake down. Make the icing. Have it warm so you can glaze the cake. You want to ice the cake while it's cooling. Then you want to cover it with plastic. Obviously, don't forget to garnish with pecans. Just get the whole thing done. Put it on the tray that you want to serve it on. So whichever platter you've already picked out for your dishes, go ahead and put it on there. Wrap it in plastic. That'll be step one. Get your whole dessert done. And look at that beautiful color in the center. I just love this dessert. This is my undoing every Christmas. The sweet potato bundt cake. I'll have a piece, and it's so delicious I just will decide to have at least one more. With a cup of coffee, it is really something special. I hope you feel the same way. Next, once we get the dessert done, and a lot of the reason I do dessert first is I don't want to get my savory mixed in with my sweet. So I'll clean up all the dessert stuff, and then we'll start working on the proteins next, which is my second step. So we're going to jump into the rib roast. And what you're going to do with that is if it needs any trimming or any silver skin taken off, go ahead and do that first. Then we want to season the whole thing with salt and pepper. And in a medium hot pan, you want to sear that off. You see that golden brown crust on the outside of that rib roast? You want to sear it all over to get that nice golden brown crust. And then, while that's in the pan working, you can also see the herb crust, which has a little bit of spices and garlic mixed into it. We want to make that entire herb crust while this is searing. Then once it comes out of the pan and it's nicely seared, we rub the herb crust all over the rib roast. And guess what? Now it's ready for the oven. So we put it in a baking pan, or in a pan to just consolidate space in the refrigerator, wrap it with plastic, and call it done. So that's our prep for the rib roast. And we will finish that tomorrow. Next is our turkey. Like I said, it must brine overnight. So we have to first make our maple brine and make sure that it's cool. The recipe has a way to use ice instead of just making the whole batch and then letting it cool. You could do it that way, but it takes longer. I like the ice method because it makes it usable right away. So we want to make the brine, then we clean the turkey, take all the gizzards, and sometimes they're in bags, so you want to just make sure that all the cavities are cleared out. No feathers are left, We want to kind of pat it dry. And then get your big container, or if you don't have a big pot or maybe a small trash can that you can use, do a double layer of trash bags. Put your turkey in the trash bag, cover it with brine, seal it, put that on a tray, and put that in the fridge. You just want to get it covered in brine as well as you can. Now, if it's cold enough outside, and by that I mean it has to be 42 degrees or below. I'd prefer like 38 to 40, but 42 will work. You can put it in a big pot or a trash can, a clean trash can obviously, covered outside on the porch overnight if you don't have room in the fridge. But the temperature is going to be the key there. You don't want it to freeze, obviously. Some of you, like tonight, everything's going to freeze again, so obviously you wouldn't want to keep it outside. But if you got, 35 to 42, perfect. Keep it outside, brine it overnight. If you don't, try to make room, take the shells out, everything you don't need in the fridge. Put the turkey in the fridge. You definitely want to keep it cold overnight. Don't be like my mother-in-law and put it on the back porch when it's 80 degrees outside because she food poisoned everybody. Don't do that. Mushroom gravy. We're not going to do a lot with this today. We're just going to prep the mushrooms and put them in a zip bag and put it in the fridge. So the mushrooms and garlic are prepped. That's all the vegetable prep that we need to make the mushroom gravy. So we're just going to do that little bit of work ahead of time and get it in the fridge. We're going to finish that tomorrow because it's a very quick finish. Moving on to our dressing. Now, we want to use the baking dish that you want to serve this out of. You can go ahead and build it in that baking dish. So if you have a nice ceramic one or you have a Christmas one, go ahead and dice your bread and leave it in that baking dish uncovered. We want it to start drying out and getting a little bit stale. That's the key to having really good sourdough dressing. So leave it uncovered, cut to shape in the baking dish on the table overnight. Leave it uncovered. Next, you want to peel and dice your butternut squash. Put that in a bag, and we're talking about small pieces, 1/2-inch dice, because we want it to make sure we cook it through. But we don't want, big pieces of butternut in here. You can see in the picture, there's just little pieces of butternut kind of studding it. That's all we want. So bag that, put it in the fridge. And then we also have our onion, celery, garlic that we need as our part of our stuffing. We want to go ahead and do that knife work and bag those things up and keep those in the fridge. We're going to finish this tomorrow. The same thing with the fresh herbs that get folded in right before it goes in the oven. We want to go ahead and chop those up so that part is finished and put those in a small bag in the fridge ready for tomorrow. And that will finish our dressing prep. Now, sweet potatoes. We will peel and dice them. We want to steam these until they're fork tender. I prefer to steam them so that we're not adding a bunch of extra water when you boil them. I just prefer to steam them, okay? That means you have maybe a little steamer basket that you keep it above the water, which is simmering below. And as soon as they start falling apart, they're fork tender, they're ready to mash. So you can just set them aside till you have your butter and cream ready. So I melt my butter right into my cream. And once that's done, I'll add my seasonings to my butter and cream and mix that in and taste it. And I'll get it to where I can taste it. And then just bring those two things together. You want to just mash your sweet potatoes with the butter and cream. Then get the baking dish that you're going to serve them out of again, put them in the baking dish, go ahead and put your pecans on top, and cover it, put that in the fridge overnight. We're getting this ready to go so that all you have to do is take it out of the fridge and pop it in the oven. So I'm trying to set you up to where everything that needs to be roasted can kind of go in at the same time, or at least many things in 2 stages, depending on your oven. So that's the sweet potatoes. Next, we have the Brussels sprouts. And it has the garnish of the pecans, cranberries, and bacon. There's a little bit of onions in there too. What we want to do today is take our Brussels sprouts and trim them and either cut them in half or in quarters, depending on what size your Brussels sprouts are, because they can range in size from small to big like this. And if they're large like this, to get a bite-sized piece, you really want to cut them twice, cut them into quarters. So 4 pieces. If they're small, just cut them in half. And by trim, I mean, I like to, the root end where they attach to the stalk, sometimes there's a little woody bit left, and I like to just trim that off because it's just not nice to eat. So we trim that, and we also take off any leaves that just don't look good, because sometimes they are bruised or brown just on the outside. You want to take all of those leaves off. So that's what I mean by trim. Once you get them cut to the size and shape that you want, go ahead and put those in a bag, put them in the fridge. They're prepped and ready for tomorrow. Now we move on to the onion and the bacon. We want to slice our onion and slice the bacon. We're going to start by sauteing our onion over medium heat for 2 to 3 minutes, just enough to soften the onions, kind of take that rawness off. Then we add our sliced bacon to that, and we want to mix all that together for about 5 minutes until the bacon begins to get crispy. Okay, we want to add the cranberries to that mixture, onions and bacon, and then take that out of the pan, cool it down, maybe put it in a glass bowl, cover it, and put it in the fridge. And that's the prep we need done on the Brussels sprouts. You want to refrigerate those overnight as well. Lastly, we have the cranberry orange sauce. Just like the dessert, this is an item that can be served cold. Okay, obviously the dessert will be served room temperature, so that's fine. This will be cold, which means we can go ahead and make the entire recipe now, a day ahead of time. So make the recipe all the way through. Reserve your orange zest garnish in a small ramekin, or even make a little plastic wrap bundle. You know, go ahead and zest your orange and have that garnish ready, just so everything's ready. And keep the garnish on top of the container, whatever you pick to put your cooled cranberries in. Just keep it all together. So you want to cook it, cool it down, pack it in a sealed container, get it in the fridge, and that's done. So we really have already 2 items just completely finished. And we have most of them, you know, ready to be finished or ready to just be finished in the oven. And that's your prep day. It shouldn't take you too long to get through that list and to get yourself set up for tomorrow. But this is going to be crucial so that when you wake up in the morning, and let's say you want to serve at 2 o'clock, you know, you don't have to start at 6 o'clock in the morning to like get everything ready, and you don't have to stress out and be running around the kitchen and trying to keep track of all these different things. Now, one thing I wanted to mention, the way that I kind of organized my prep day, which didn't make it very evident in this presentation, but what I will also do additionally is I'll take my menu like this, and I'll make notes on what are all my vegetables that I have to prep. So I have onions in a couple places, I have celery maybe in a couple places, I have garlic and herbs, and I have all these things that are all knife work. And what I tend to do is group those all together, and I will do all my onions at one time. And then I'll just break those out into the recipes that they need to go with. I will cut all my celery at once, and I'll cut all my garlic at once, and then I'll cut all my herbs at once, so that all that knife work is done all together. That's one part that I didn't mention to you that I wanted to before I forgot. So that's the way I do prep days, and that's the way I organize myself to set myself up for success. So I hope that you now feel like you got this, because you do. Tomorrow, day 7, is game day. You're making the menu. And now you're ready. So I'll see you on day 7. Look forward to it. And day 7, I saved my best Christmas hat for the last day. So look forward to that. I'll see you then.